Welcome back to Dealmakers Conversations. In this first interview, we sit down with Natasha Duff-Cole, owner of Ladies of Lineage. Her organization was severely impacted by COVID, but she adapted. I'll let her tell the story. Hi, I'm here with Natasha Duff-Cole, owner of Ladies of Lineage. Natasha, thanks for joining us here at Dealmakers.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Thanks. So Ladies of Lineage plays in a tough industry that was really hit hard during COVID. How has it impacted your business over the year?
It's been an interesting year to date, for sure, as it has for every business. While many companies felt the impacts of COVID in March, mostly in the US, we started feeling the impacts in November and December of 2019, really when China got hit. 80% of the bridal industry manufactures out of China. And regardless if manufacturing was coming out of China, we have a lot of our US and European designers that source fabrics, they source buttons, zippers out of China. So started feeling a little bit of that production slow down a bit in November and December, and normal delivery time for a wedding dress is 4 to 6 months. So we started seeing 6 to 8 month delivery time frames coming into play. A few of our designers started pushing back on rush options that would normally get our brides designs in 2 to 3 months. So we really kind of took it into our own hands in January, made the decision to take away rush options from all of our designers, regardless of their manufacturing location and their capabilities, because we didn't really know what the butterfly effect was going to be, on our industry. And so with that, we really just needed to get strategic. We started having more open dialogue with our brides and letting them know what was going on. And encouraging them to purchase dresses earlier. A lot of them like to wait. So, when normally they would wait 6 to 8 months before their wedding day, we were encouraging you to do a year ahead of time, So it was important for us to have that open dialogue. It was also important for us to be up to date with our designers. We started demanding weekly updates for production so that we could keep on track. I often say waiting for a couch for 6 months is one thing, and being told it's going to arrive in 8 months is another, but we're a very sentimental purchase, an emotional purchase. And so to tell a bride that her dress is going to be even a couple of weeks late is something that she gets very upset about. So we just had to be strategic in how we were speaking with our brides and how we were maneuvering within our own company.
And it's great that you had such good client communication. Obviously, in challenging times and times of change, the more you can communicate with your clients and suppliers, the better off you're going to be in the end.
Absolutely.
But you also had to adapt the business itself. So how did you do that?
Yeah, so, March hit, and we started getting the whispers that there might be a shutdown happening. For us, we're a deposit business. And so we wait for our product to ship. We pay the designers then, and we take on those remaining balances once a bride picks up. With the thought of a shutdown meant that we may have inventory and purchases that are coming in that we aren't able to get to our brides. So the staff was really great, and I said, look, we can lie down here and we can choose to wait and see how long this is going to play out, or we can be strategic and we can create a virtual marketplace. We can close down, but offer our brides the ability to be able to pick up their wedding dresses, ship their dresses for free so that we can collect those remaining balances and stay liquid. And so that's what we did. And our girls who were stylists took on the roles of having manning phones at home, which needed to happen to be able to take the phone calls from our brides or their mothers. And we had, one stylist ended up becoming our public relations person, because we had a lot of news and media outlets that needed to know what was going on and what we were doing to accommodate our brides. And then we ended up creating an online marketplace for our inventory. So we have a lot of past season inventory between both showrooms that we knew we needed to shift, and make room for new things coming in, hopefully within when we open back up. So we started an online shop called Shop Ladies of Lineage, and we had a couple of our girls manning that online platform while I was in the store doing virtual appointments with our brides. So it was an interesting couple of months, and I knew that virtual appointments weren't really going to turn into sales, but I did want to keep our brides engaged. I wanted to keep our staff engaged. And it was important to me that the reality of it is my staff would have made more money on unemployment, so it was important for us to make sure that we had them engaged and that they still felt part of something, instead of being home for a couple of months and waiting around to see if our doors were going to reopen again.
How quickly were you able to make that pivot?
So we initially we did it quick. So the week before we shut down, we made the decision to no longer, we had a choice. We could continue taking appointments and hope that brides would order, or we could stop accepting appointments and just get all of those brides in the door that we had that needed to pick up their dresses. And so we chose to do that, and we chose to collect remaining balances. A week later, I said, I started my company in 2009, right after a financial crisis. And I didn't, that was scary times then. But I recognized that there was a need in the marketplace and started as a consignment bridal boutique. And so I went back to my roots and said, all right, well, I started online, but back then we didn't have the social media that we have now. Instagram wasn't a thing. Let's utilize those, social media outlets and all the relationships that we've built over the years, and create this marketplace where brides can purchase online and they can do virtual appointments with us. And within 2 weeks, we had the website up and running. Luckily, I've built both my websites for my company, so I was pretty savvy in that to be able to get that storefront up and running quickly. But then my girls maintained it and listed all of our gowns up there, and we started taking virtual appointments within 2 weeks of being shut down. So the majority of the time we were in virtual appointments.
Wow, that is very quick as a pivot. From your experience, how should entrepreneurs like you refocus their efforts, their time, their attention, and priorities as they react to industry and economic changes? And it sounds like there's a lot of ways that you guys, your team, can get hit with those.
Absolutely. At the end of the day, I'm a relationship-driven person. So not just the relationships outside of the business, but most important internally. You've got to have a staff that understands that there is a leadership within that company and be on board for it. And, my staff rise to the occasion. And that was most important to me, is to make sure that, like I said, that they knew they had a role and they had a place. So, we pivoted and continue pivoting. One of the best things I've seen come into play so far is technology within our sector. It's not something that we've ever needed to use. People don't purchase online for a bridal gown because it's such an emotional and sentimental, piece, and they're still not doing that. Which is interesting. But now designers, this weekend would be New York Bridal Fashion Market. International designers from all over the world would be traveling to New York to show retailers like myself their collections. And so that's not happening this year. No one's flying to New York to see new designs. And so the technology has virtual appointments for retailers to view designs has come into play. And it's been really unique to see how even designers have pivoted to use that technology to their advantage.
Natasha, has this caused you to reevaluate your overall growth strategy or even your focus within the industry itself as you look forward?
Yeah, so we're taking advantage a little bit of the marketplace right now. After we opened, we had a flood of brides come through our doors because they hadn't been able to shop in 2 months inside of a showroom. Though we've had to change and adapt how we do business, we can take fewer appointments at this moment. We can take fewer guests with our brides within their appointments. But our growth is right now. Our plan is to expand our Charlotte showroom and take advantage of the commercial market while we can get into areas that otherwise would have cost us $15 to $25 more a square foot. We're going to move into that marketplace of July of next year. I just took on a 4,000 square foot event venue in Uptown Charlotte that is new to my portfolio. But 2020, as interesting as it's been, we've learned. In my industry, they say love isn't canceled. And the truth is it's not. Our brides haven't canceled wedding dates. They're postponing until next year. And so though our industry has been hit harder than a lot of other industries, those events will be postponed until next year. They won't be canceled, especially weddings. And within that, I think 2021 is going to be a big year for our event industry. And if businesses can hold on and find their niche and find ways to not just sit and wait, and to implement procedures and policies that they know are going to be in place next year, regardless of what, how many people can occupy a space, I think that they're going to be on the winning side of this. And beyond that, our next year of growth for us is really in trademarking and licensing, and expanding our brand into other marketplaces.
It sounds like you've got some good plans and you spent this time really thinking it through. What about capital? In the best of times, cash is obviously king. How might balance sheet management and having greater liquidity play a critical role with businesses, not just in your sector, but you mentioned your portfolio?
Absolutely. So again, I mentioned I started my business in 2009. So there were no banks that were offering at the time a 23-year-old girl, a loan for a business. They wanted to see 2 years of business financials in order to do so. And I was lucky enough to have two gentlemen who invested in myself. They, as bad as it probably is to say, they were less interested in investing in the company. They knew that I had a plan and a vision, and I was going to attack it, and it was going to happen. And so they invested in me, and they've been great mentors throughout the way. I've been able to call upon them when I've needed them. But being liquid in the worst and the best of times, it's important for a business. And for me, I've always wanted to have, 6 months to a year of reserves in case something was unfortunate, like COVID, to happen to us. And we were lucky to have that strategy in the beginning, that it helped us get through this. And it's even more important now. Banks are still tied up for small businesses and less likely to support expansion. We're lucky to be in a place where we started profiting after 2 years as a business. So I keep a very close relationship with my banker. And as much as I've kept a close relationship with my investors, I've been able to call upon, my lenders to ask for more capital in order to expand my businesses. And so far I've been successful, but it always hasn't been to the amount that is needed. I expanded my Fort Mill showroom, and I went in there and I was only able to get a $60,000 loan, but that was the bare minimum I needed in order to do what I was going to do. And I knew I'd make that up in no time. So it's a little bit of a risk, but with no risk, no reward, right, in business. So it's required.
Exactly. Especially from an entrepreneurial perspective. So let's put on your prognosticator's hat. Let's move forward and think about 2021 and beyond. What does the future look like in your businesses as well as within the industry itself? You mentioned that it's such an emotional purchase that people aren't necessarily buying online. Do you see maybe more virtual AI related bridal fittings and things like that? I mean, what's the future hold?
I don't. I still think that a bride is always going to walk into a boutique. She wants that experience. She wants to be able to bring in her family to try on dresses. It's much like ourselves as owners. We want to be at market this weekend and touch and feel and see the structure inside of a dress and turn it inside out. She wants that option, and she wants to be able to come through the door. It's not as personal or sentimental when you're doing it online. So still, even now, in the best of times, girls were purchasing online, maybe made up like 0.01% of our industry. I know many have purchased a few more designs online right now because they were scared they weren't going to be able to get designs. So we know a lot of, we say COVID brides who purchased online, and then when doors opened, they were like, I don't know what I was thinking. I was just scared. Still want to come in and do the experience and then end up buying a dress anyways. It's been unique as of recent. One of the biggest pivots that we've done this year that was very successful was that we normally have two massive sample sales to get rid of past season inventory every single year. And this year, with CDC restrictions and not being able to have so many people come through our doors, but occupancy restrictions, we couldn't do that. And so to shift inventory, to have new inventory come in, was what are we going to do? So we decided, we had 2 boutiques go out of business within our shopping plaza, and I convinced our landlord to allow me to lease a space at a lesser rent. And we popped up a sample showroom, and we had over 100 designs in that showroom. We sold half of them over a month and a half. So, I think that the way moving forward is that businesses are going to have to shift. We're going to have to make decisions that we otherwise didn't need to make. For us, we're looking to expand to get a little bit more space so that we can take on more than 2 appointments at one time. That's really important to us, but we've also learned that by not having 3 appointments going at one time, we've been able to provide a better service to our brides. So we've learned a lot through the process as well. With 2021, I see a lot of, it's going to be a busy year. And with that, we're obviously excited about that. We hope that that does happen. But with our brides, it hasn't stopped them from purchasing, and we're quite thankful for that. If anything, their budgets have increased because they now no longer have the 300-person wedding. They might have a more intimate setting, so they're putting more towards their wedding dress instead of their cake or their decorations. So for our market, when it comes to retail, I see it very prosperous in 2021. For our event industry in general that I'm in, I also see it that way because, like I said before, if you could hold on tight and you've really put everything together while this time has been down, I think 2021, you have 2020 brides that have had to postpone into 2021. You have 2021 brides that are trying to eat up all the Saturday appointments, right? Or Saturday, for their venue. And there's a lot of Friday and Sunday weddings happening next year. So it'll be very prosperous for the event industry, even though it's been quite a downplay for them this year.
That's good to hear. Natasha, I really appreciate you sitting down with us here at the Dealmakers Conference. Thank you so much and good luck into 2021.
Thank you so much. You have a lovely day.
Thank you. That was great. Thank you, Natasha. Next up, we sit down with David Longo, CEO of CBI Workplace Solutions, where we talk about the future of the workplace. David? Welcome to Dealmakers Conversations. I'm here with David Longo, CEO of CBI Workplace Solutions. David, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Excellent. So Dave, you're in the office solutions space. How did you adapt when COVID hit, and what have you been doing to help get employers back to work?
Well, quite frankly, the adaptation for us was pretty easy. We have a platform of locations in North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, and Florida. So we're used to working with each other remotely. So the big adaptation for us was really working around the schedule of our younger parents who had to deal with the childcare issues, both childcare, schooling, et cetera. And we're already a fairly flexible organization, but that certainly created challenges. But we have really, really dedicated, committed associates who were, just found ways to get their job done. We were open the whole time, so we did not have to shut our locations because we were considered an essential business. We were able to work from the office. And I would tell you that 70% of the time we were, I would say, we were about 70% occupied at any given point, but it wasn't always the same 70% of folks. We had some challenges with our field staff and had to think through adjusting some of our safety protocols. And fortunately, we've remained very healthy through it. Regarding what we do as an industry, though, it was quite interesting because the first division of our business is a consulting division, and the work required there just went through the roof. All of our clients were coming to us to help them think through how do they return to work, how do they do it in a safe way. And there's no one size fits all for those things. And therefore, it just takes a process of really understanding what's going inside each of the businesses, what type of risks are they willing to take, what are their cultural challenges, and how do you develop a strategy for them. So we've had clients who've done everything from adding on to the products that we have provided to them to create additional barriers that are permanent. We've had others who've created temporary barriers that they'll have in place for a while, and then others who have just been able to adjust their space for social distancing requirements and things like that. So it's been an interesting and kind of fascinating ride.
I'm sure, and David, these things work in pendulums. Obviously, you go from one extreme to the next and kind of settle back into something a little bit in the middle that's got the best of all worlds. Based on that, we're seeing a lot more people talking about moving towards partially or fully virtual offices. How do you envision what that office of tomorrow is going to look like? It's clearly not going to be what it was January 1st.
Yeah, that's a really interesting topic. And there's a lot of people who are, I guess, being futurist and predicting what's going to be happening in 10 years from now. I'm a little bit more practical than that, and I think you meet the need of what you're dealing with today, understanding that in our case, with where we work with our clients, that their real estate strategies are 10, 15, 20-year strategies, and the office is not going to go away. There's no question that there are some industries that can work more remotely, that flexibility through technology exists, and I think that that's an important positive and negative, because people who are working from home are finding that it's also very difficult to set boundaries, and therefore there's no release at all, and that can become a problem on the other side of things. From what we're seeing is most of our clients are realizing that the way we work and the way we actually operate as humans is we have this need for interaction. And when you think about developing culture, when you think about creativity, ideation, and development, that really requires leveraging the collective wisdom of your organizations. And that is just different when you don't have the opportunity to be together. You also lose the opportunity for collision meetings where you're just walking down a hall, you bump into someone, and you say, "Oh, I meant to tell you." So we're finding that a lot of our clients were able to adjust in the short term because a lot of the cultural elements existed. The challenge is when you get a year out, 2 years out, 3 years out, the more that starts to happen, the more we believe that you're going to have to come together. And I partially base that on some of the work that we were doing over the last 10 years with clients, where we had a big emphasis on a number of our larger clients to move people to remote working. And what they found is that they swung that pendulum too far, to use your analogy, and they started to bring people back into the office because they realized it wasn't working. Younger folks coming into the office, they need development, they need mentorship, they need connectivity. You can even look at some of the people, I'm a big fan of Simon Sinek, and when he thinks about sort of people and how we operate as humans, and you think about the development of some of the younger folks coming out of school today, they need that connectivity and mentorship. And you can do some of it this way, but you're going to need that connectivity together. So long way of saying, I don't believe the office is going away. I think that you're going to see more flexibility, both in how companies allow people to work and how you work inside of the workplace, but the physical structures aren't going to disappear.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be an exciting time for your industry, especially the consulting side of your industry, to help companies figure out how to get that balance right, because it's going to be a challenge for probably the next year.
Yeah.
You know, we talked earlier with your award about a cap raise. And with regard to the cap raise you did last year with private equity, how did the transaction come about? And what are you using those funds to do? Is that expansion money, or is it a liquidity event?
Yeah, it was I would say a little bit of both. We founded the company 27 years ago and always had the concept, I always refer to the Stephen Covey concept of beginning with the end in mind and thinking about what would this company look like when I'm not here. I'm still young enough to be here for a fair amount of time, but I don't think that you wake up at a certain point in time and decide to exit the company. So we have been very focused on building the leadership team that is really predominantly runs the day-to-day and is in position to be able to replace me in the next 8 to 10 years. And part of that was, how do we structure ourselves financially? My family wanted to keep a significant investment in. I had some minority partners that were retiring or exiting the company who wanted to be able to create liquidity for themselves. And so we used it partially for that. And the other part is that we have a really large growth expansion opportunity for us as our industry is evolving. And particularly because we position ourselves very different than a lot of our competitors. We really lead with the consulting part of our business. And that is taking us, helping us serve clients both regionally and nationally. And we see, I would say the greatest limiting factor for us, it's not capital right now, it's just talent, but we intend to continue to grow and expand our business.
Interesting. You know, when you were going through due diligence, one of the things that a lot of people have told me over the years is that they learn a lot about themselves and their company because, somebody else is kicking the tires and they have to also be looking internally and have some introspection. What did you learn either about yourself or your business that maybe you didn't know before or that caused you to rethink how you're going to manage the company moving forward?
Yeah, I think there's a boy in all these events. There's so much opportunity to learn and grow. I think one of the biggest things for someone like myself is you really go through a process to understand. Do you want to do this? Or you're in a situation where you're majority control of the business, you've built it from the ground up. Are you really truly going to be comfortable having a partner in the business? And in our case, and I would tell you with myself, I felt very at peace with doing that. And quite frankly, when we outlined what we were looking for in an ideal partner, we could not have asked for a better partner than Stevens Capital Partners. They invest in really strong management teams. They're not intrusive, and they have, as they would tell you, if they have to step in and start running a business, that's a really bad day for them. So culturally, we align with them, philosophically, how we wanted to run the business. And I can tell you a year later, it has exceeded my expectations. So the first thing was learning about myself. The second thing was really understanding the business and who we are. We're very focused on what we would call our second guiding principle, which is relentless pursuit of excellence in everything we do. And what can happen when you're always focused on getting better and better and better is you kind of tend to look at all your little warts that you kind of know about yourself, and you're constantly fixing those things. What was not really surprising, but very affirming to us was the interest when Piper Jaffray's helped us go out just to solicit who might be interested in looking at us. The amount of organizations that wanted to go to the second and then third level just sort of surprised us. And we were able to be very selective in who we brought to the table to do management presentations. And we still did 12 of them, which, as you know, are grueling. And so we worked through all that to get to the right partner. And what we consistently heard from everyone was they, one, really valued the uniqueness in how we differentiated ourselves in the market. And two was the competency of our leadership team. And three was the level of policy, process, and procedure that was in place for the size of the organization that we are. And because of that, we received a large amount, a good amount of really, really strong offers, and we're able to find the right partner. And it wasn't about dollars. It was about fit and dollars. And so I was very pleased that they affirmed that, quite frankly, I think that they thought we were better than we thought we were.
It's great to hear. So David, what's the growth expansion strategy now for CBI? Are you looking at more acquisitions? Are you looking to open new locations, just expand the brand or the services?
Yeah, it's kind of all the above. Our consulting division is growing rapidly, and it's a very important part of our business because it allows us to be a thought leader and a trusted advisor for our clients. We're really, the products that we provide are the end result of helping them solve problems. So consulting is an area that we continue to grow and expand because there's a really strong need there. We also have a tremendous opportunity to grow our interior construction division. It's a fairly newer division for us within the last 5 years, and we expect that division to grow by about tenfold. And so we're really excited about that. And then the third is the right geographic expansion. We acquired a business in Nashville. Yes, I think maybe we were one of the few people actually did an acquisition in the middle of COVID, but we did it. And it was a really good solution for the group in the market who was trying to solve a problem and for us. And we'll strategically look at those over the years. I'm constantly, it's a big part of what I do is kind of look at what's the strategy for the right geographic pieces and then working those opportunities.
Well, David, I appreciate you sitting down with us here at Dealmakers and talking about your growth strategy and the acquisitions. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you, David. That was great. Ladies and gentlemen, we will see you back here in an hour for the next installment of Dealmakers Conversations.